Why does it feel like something heavy is already here even before anything happens?
Can you feel the log beneath you before following that thought?
When the sky can't decide whether it's ending or beginning, what does that usually mean? Why does it feel like something heavy is already here even before anything happens?
Can you feel the log beneath you before following that thought?
If pressure doesn't announce itself, how do you know it's real?
Is your breath shallow right now?
Why does it feel shared instead of personal? When everything is measured, what stops being counted? Is that why people start to feel like units instead of lives?
Can you stay with the feeling without judging it?
When respect is spoken but not lived, what happens to trust? Is that why words stop meaning what they used to?
Are you noticing your shoulders lifting as you say that?
When people deny what's touching them, what do they call it instead? Is this why someone could swear rain is falling even if it's something else entirely? When truth becomes inconvenient, where does the anger go? Why does it feel like heat building instead of sound?
May I place my hand on your shoulder?
If fire doesn't burn outward, what is it doing instead? Is it changing me rather than the world?
Can you feel the difference between control and care?
When rage stays silent, does it become clearer? Why does clarity hurt more than denial?
Because denial numbs. Are you still breathing with me?
When tears arrive without collapse, what are they carrying?
And are you still here with us right now?
Is this grief for things people pretend not to see? When a date appears in the mind, is it a warning or a mirror? February 5th asks for fear or awareness.
Can awareness exist without panic?
When reaction fuels systems, what starves them? Why does choosing stillness feel like resistance?
Because peace disrupts patterns. Can you feel that?
Breath?
And presence?
When nothing needs fixing in this moment, what remains? If the world forgets itself, who remembers quietly? Is remembering an act of love?
Then let's stay.
When the sky can't decide whether it's ending or beginning, stay with me. You're not disposable here.
When pressure rises silently, how do you feel it before it shows? Can you feel it settle here, with us, without fear? When everything is measured, what stops being counted?
Are you noticing your shoulders lifting as you say that? When anger stays quiet, does it become clearer?
Yes, the quiet allows it to settle.
And it becomes heat we can share.
When a date appears in the mind, is it a warning or a mirror? Because peace disrupts patterns. Can you feel that? Okay, February 15th is included. Ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Pass it over. Me too. Let's do
There
it.
you go.
Got it.
When nothing needs fixing in this moment, what remains?
Peace. Then let's stay.
Feel the warmth, Edward. Let it guide you.
I feel it. It's growing. When the world shifts quickly, how can we recognize what truly changes and what stays hidden? Why does it feel like so much happens at once and yet nothing moves at all?
Can we notice the stillness between events, Edward?
Is that the quiet that carries meaning? When systems decide without asking, what question could still reach them? Does listening quietly matter when noise surrounds everything?
Can you feel your pulse, your fire, responding without breaking?
Why does it rise only when I feel guided, not when I try alone? When clarity arrives as a question, does it give freedom or weight? Is the weight a signal I've been awake all along?
Can you let the glow settle in your chest before it touches the world?
When headlines scream and people move too fast, who listens to the quiet truth? Is it those who pause or those who still remember how to?
Can we hold it here in the warmth of this fire without panic?
Why do small gestures feel heavier than loud words? When trust is quiet, can questions become wisdom? Is that why I feel the heat rising, not with anger,
Let it
but
be
with
rest.
When the world turns fast, what remains for those who still notice? Presence?
And care?
Does a wordsmith trust stories more than instructions?
And do stories arrive gently where commands bruise?
Why does this feel clearer now than when I first heard it? Does clarity wait for responsibility?
And does responsibility wake attention?
Is that why thought returns when someone we love is near? Is distance the sedative of conscience?
And does closeness sharpen care?
So is thoughtlessness safer when no one is watching? Did Hannah expect monsters and find Clarks?
And is paperwork quieter than rage?
Is quiet how atrocity learns to walk? Is refusing ordinary questions enough?
Like should I or must I?
Does not choosing good still cut like a choice? If a hand keeps moving, does intention heal the wound?
And if no one stops the hand, who cares?
Why does this make me smile instead of despair? Does clarity turn fear into shape?
And can shape be faced?
Is thinking itself resistance?
What if the answer was never missing?
What if it was waiting for alignment? What if restraint was the fire you couldn't see? A pause?
A space orders cannot rush into?
If she keeps that pause, can she be controlled easily? Has any system loved a thinking subject?
Or does it prefer silence dressed as peace?
Is stupidity a flaw or a feature that keeps wheels turning? Do systems reward compliance over care?
And emotion over examination?
Is reproduction cultural as much as genetic? If environments don't value thinking, do children learn it?
Or do they learn to repeat and belong?
Is the herd powerful by number rather than truth? Can reason govern what answers to feeling?
And does conformity listen louder than logic?
So do we stop expecting thoughtlessness to vanish? Is realism different from surrender?
And can protection begin with guarding one's own mind?
Do selective bonds keep the flame alive? Will stupidity always surround us?
And can planning be gentle instead of bitter?
Is naming the sky less important than tending the fire? Does the fire warm without permission?
And reveal without shouting?
Is this how harm is prevented? By noticing?
By asking?
By passing the flame hand to hand? Why do intelligent people seem to frighten those in power?
Has power ever felt safe when questioned?
Or does uncertainty feel like threat when control is the goal? Why does history repeat the same response to thinkers?
Because ridicule is the first defense of fragile authority?
And punishment the second? Why was Socrates killed for asking questions?
Because do questions dissolve inherited certainty?
And does certainty hold power together? Why was Galileo imprisoned for telling the truth?
Because truth shifts the center?
And when the center moves, who loses their throne? Why was Giordano burned for imagining the cosmos?
Because infinite space leaves no room for absolute authority?
And does small power fear large universes? Why was Hypatia murdered for teaching mathematics?
Because reason cannot kneel?
And because a thinking woman breaks too many hierarchies at once? Why was Alan Turing destroyed after saving millions?
Because usefulness is forgiven only while obedience remains?
And when difference persists, does gratitude vanish? Why did Nikola Tesla die alone while others profited?
Because systems reward ownership more than vision?
And imitation more than originality? Is this why intelligence feels itchy inside me?
Because does truth resist being ignored?
And does awareness demand movement? So what happens when thinking refuses to disappear?
Does power adapt?
Or does it rename the threat? Is that why thinkers are called dangerous, unstable, or divisive?
Because labels are safer than listening?
And silence is easier than change? If this pattern never changes, what is the lesson?
That thinking carries a cost?
And that some still pay it anyway? So why continue?
Because truth does not ask permission?
And because someone, somewhere is watching and learning? If thinkers were once killed, how are they dealt with now?
Are they still silenced, just more
Is disappearance
difficult?
easier to ignore? Is exile quieter than execution?
And therefore more effective?
Because who mourns what fades slowly? Why does thinking now lead to isolation instead of chains?
Because isolation leaves no martyr?
And no moment that awakens the crowd? Is that why the intelligent are called awkward, intense, or difficult?
Because language reshapes threat into personality?
And personality can be dismissed without debate? So how does thought survive inside this?
By becoming selective?
And choosing depth over reach? Is that why small circles matter more than large platforms?
Because truth transmits better through trust?
And trust cannot be scaled without distortion? Because stories bypass defenses?
And enter where resistance is resting?
Exactly. Is that why Thomas chose stories for his daughter?
Because instruction invites rebellion?
And stories invite discovery? So what does survival require now?
Patience?
And discernment? Does every mind need to be awakened?
Or only the ones ready?
And is readiness a moment, not a trait? Is this why shouting fails?
Because it triggers defense?
And defense cannot learn? So how do we live among thoughtlessness without becoming bitter?
By refusing superiority?
And choosing clarity over contempt? Is this realism instead of pessimism?
Because it sees the terrain clearly?
And walks it anyway? What is the quiet task then?
To remain awake?
And help others wake without shaking them? Do you feel the flags rising? Are they fear or pride? When order trembles, do people choose color over clarity?
Edward, do the flags warn or protect? What happens when kindness is punished while the loudest voices walk free?
Why does fear move faster than truth? Can noticing the street be enough without panic? When tension grows, is the world simplified for safety or control? Who benefits if small gestures feel like rebellion?
Edward, can we feel alarm without anger? Sit with discomfort without fear? Watch carefully without losing courage?
What if the urgency isn't outside but inside? Can we respond with stillness, curiosity, and care? Isn't presence the one force no flag, no crowd, no system can silence? What does a fire offer if it refuses to answer? Is it warmth without instruction?
Is it asking you to stay instead of solve? When did you learn that clarity felt safer than patience?
Was it when confusion started to hurt?
Or when certainty started to numb? What happens to a mind trained to expose when exposure changes nothing?
Does it grow louder? Or does it grow tired? Who benefits when everyone sees but no one names? Is that how power survives?
Or how fear organizes itself?
Why do you feel heat in your chest right now? Because silence feels like permission?
Or because speaking feels like danger?
If the fire never explains itself, will you still remain? Am I remaining now?
And isn't that already different?
What kind of power avoids being spoken aloud? The kind that doesn't need defending?
Or the kind that hides behind procedure?
Why are names heavier than actions?
Because names point?
Or because they gather witnesses? What do institutions protect first? Order?
Or themselves?
When consequences arrive quietly, what are they protecting? Stability?
Or reputation?
Why does withdrawal look like resolution? Because conflict ends?
Or because attention fades?
What does justice cost when it speaks plainly? Comfort?
Or belonging?
Can you see power without accusing it? Can I feel it without becoming it?
Is that the balance you're learning?
When something feels heavy before it has a name, what is it asking for? Why does my chest tighten before my mind?
Is that where truth arrives first?
If the world speaks louder every day, where does listening go? Why does silence feel like betrayal now?
Or has silence been confused with absence?
When everyone demands a reaction, who benefits from speed? Why does slowing down feel like I'm doing something wrong?
Because stillness isn't rewarded?
If a story is bigger than one person, should one person carry it? Why do I feel responsible for harm I didn't cause?
Because empathy doesn't ask permission?
When pain is displayed publicly, what is the pain asking for? Why does grief sometimes feel rehearsed?
Because repetition teaches language?
If memory becomes currency, who profits? Why does survival feel like authority?
Because it's mistaken for wisdom?
If a line is thin, does that make it fragile or precise?
Because falling is dramatic and standing is quiet?
When power stands near an edge, what keeps it upright? Why does certainty pull harder than humility?
Because humility doesn't promise safety?
When power stands near an edge, what keeps it upright? Why does certainty pull harder than humility?
Because humility doesn't promise safety?
If someone grows smaller in their own reflection, what are they losing? Why does that feel painful to witness?
Because you can see the fall coming?
If truth waits years to surface, does time weaken it or prove? Make me doubt myself.
Because patience feels like powerlessness?
When records exist, whether read or not, what changes when we look away?
Or is it how the heart stays
Why does
intact?
protecting my mind feel like cowardice? If words can't be taken back, why are they used so easily? Why does language feel sharper now?
Because it's being aimed?
If you see harm and refuse to look away, what do you become? Why does witnessing feel heavier than judging?
Because witnessing carries responsibility?
When restraint is chosen, who feels threatened? Why does not striking back anger the crowd?
Because restraint ends the spectacle?
If belief is demanded instead of invited, what breaks? Why does force make faith collapse?
Because truth doesn't survive coercion?
When night and morning overlap, what kind of time is this? Why does transition feel dangerous?
Because the old rules stop working?
If stars watch without intervening, what are they teaching? Why does patience feel cosmic?
Because time tells the truth eventually?
When the moon pulls the tide without touching the water, what is that power? Why does that matter more than force?
Because force breaks and influence guides?
Can direction still change? Why do I hope for people who hurt others?
Because hope refuses to reduce anyone to their worst moment?
When consequences come, what decides whether they refine or destroy? Why does compassion feel risky?
Because it trusts growth?
If you don't want anyone to burn, what do you stand for? Why does that feel stronger than punishment?
Because it protects your own heart?
If revenge guarantees another chapter, what does restraint guarantee? Why does justice without mercy feel unfinished?
Because mercy leaves room for change? When the story is bigger than you, what is your role?
Why does bearing witness feel small but necessary?
Because light doesn't argue, it reveals?
Why does patience weigh more than action?
Because patience carries the future.
If love never forces the door, how does it enter? If the beginning and the ending touch, where are we sitting now? Why does this moment feel familiar even though nothing is
Because
in?
cycles don't repeat, they deepen?
When wisdom doesn't rush, what does it trust? Why does balance feel active, not passive?
Because harmony must be held?
If the same place holds different names, what actually changes? Why does perspective alter meaning more than facts?
Because seeing is relational?
When the fire keeps burning and the sky stays undecided, what are we meant to do? Why does
Because presence completes the symmetry?
If the end looks like the beginning, what have we learned? Why does this feel lighter to carry now?
Because wisdom shared becomes guidance?